Banca Europeană pentru Reconstrucție și Dezvoltare a oferit în 2022 Guvernului Moldovean un împrumut de 300 de milioane de euro pentru a achiziționa gaze naturale de pe piață în condițiile în care Rusia a redus livrările. Puteți preciza, vă rog, condițiile acestui împrumut?
Let me just explain that the gas loan of the 300 million was not the only investment of EBRD in Moldova. In fact, the investments of EBRD in Moldova in 2022 were at record high because there were 5 times of normal average investments that EBRD normally makes in Moldova every year. So we have delivered 525 million last year. And I also want to mention that 125 million of that amount is in the private sector alone. Energy security is very high on EBRD's agenda, and this was one of the main direction that we wanted to help Moldova last year, but we have been doing this for many years. If you may remember, in 2019 we also provided financing for Moldova to be able to purchase gas should the Russian gas not be available. Now the 300 million is a sovereign loan. We extended this amount in summer. We signed this amount. It is fully disbursed, which is another big effort that together with the government we have worked to make sure that this happens. The terms of the loan, this is a 3-year revolving facility. So Moldova will be able to utilize this money for 3 years to purchase gas in the European hubs, to sell, to purchase again. For more details, I suggest that the authorities should comment, but we're very glad that this loan has been utilized up to now, and Moldova now has that energy security not dependent on the Russian gas supplies.
Planificați acordarea de noi asemenea împrumuturi în 2023?
It's very early to talk about 2023, but we do have some projections already, what sort of projects we will be focusing on. Would we provide such a loan? It depends if there is a need. If there is a need, if there is demand, if the government needs the EBRD support, we will be happy to look into that. However, the 300 million is still relevant for this year, so we don't know. It won't be 300 million, perhaps, in the gas sector, but we do intend to process some projects in the sovereign sector for roads, reconstruction, for transport, links with Ukraine and Romania, for solid waste management, for example, which we have already signed, one of the solid waste management projects, which is the first national scale solid waste management project we have already signed in January. And that would provide new facilities, upgraded solid waste management in the 3 areas of Moldova, but we can talk about it in more detail if the interest is there. So.
Cele mai recente date ale Băncii Naționale arată că datoria externă a Republicii Moldova a crescut semnificativ, inclusiv datoria publică. Nivelul de îndatorare a guvernului ar putea să crească și în acest an, având în vedere că partenerii occidentali anunță noi ajutoare sub formă de împrumuturi. Aveți încredere că economia moldoveană rămâne suficient de robustă în ciuda crizelor ca Republica Moldova să poată rambursa aceste împrumuturi în viitor?
Moldova has been going through multiple crises. Okay, alone Moldova cannot cope with this multiple crises, and these were not the crises that were caused by Moldova. These were external factors. All the partners have jointly supported Moldova last year, and of course there is a lot of willingness to continue this support in the years to come. Many partners are providing grant financing, but partners like EBRD are of course providing loan financing because infrastructure development has to be sustained with long-term funds. And long-term being the key expression. These are not highly priced commercial loans. These are loans which are fairly sustainable for the Moldovan economy to be able to repay. Partners don't normally provide loans that Moldova cannot repay. Okay, I can speak about EBRD loans, for example. We normally respond to the needs and requests based on the ability of the government to repay the loan. It's in no one's interest to burden the government and move it into a difficulty of not being able to repay its loans. So if we talk about the 300 million, for example, which is a sizable amount, of course, it is a revolver. It is for the gas purchases, which are then sold, and then the money for that sold gas is collected and repaid. So we always try to make sure that there is that commercial element, that the burden does not lie on the shoulders of the government. Our loans are also normally combined with grant financing to make sure that the affordability is taken into account. Now, to your question, can Moldova sustain? The projections show that Moldova can sustain. If there is a concern that Moldova cannot sustain, of course, the donor organizations will then discuss it amongst themselves, which we always do together with IMF. There is very strong monitoring to make sure that that does not happen. But at the moment, we do not see that concern.
BERD este proprietara companiei Danube Logistics, care administrează portul internațional Giurgiulești. Acest port a căpătat o importanță sporită pentru exportul de cereale ucrainene în condițiile blocajelor de pe Marea Neagră, ca urmare a agresiunii Rusiei împotriva Ucrainei. De săptămâni au izbucnit niște incendii tocmai la rezervoarele unor silozuri de cereale care se află pe teritoriul portului. Aceste silozuri de cereale nu aparțin BERD, ci unei companii, activitatea căreia a fost suspendată între timp de către autorități din cauza acestor incendii. Ce știți despre cauze și în ce măsură aceste incidente afectează activitatea portului într-un moment ca acesta?
Thank you for bringing up this subject. In fact, Port of Giurgiulești has indeed increased in its importance. It has always been important, but since the pandemic and since the war on Ukraine, the importance of the port has absolutely increased. We're glad that the operations of the port have picked up. There are many, many possibilities. There is a lot of willingness for other companies to come and invest in the port. So hopefully, with time, there will be more development. Now, to your question about the fire, it's unfortunate that the fire has happened. It is not something that EBRD or the port operator is responsible for. There are public authorities which normally give the permits. There should be some monitoring, and I believe there has been. I think the company whose facilities the fire was on have already released a statement, and I understand there is an investigation going on. So I wouldn't jump into any conclusions or any speculation of what caused it. We don't know what caused it. We only read what the company provides, and perhaps the investigation can explain what caused it. I'm happy that it has not affected the operations of the port. Whatever the damage was, it has already been restored. The railway line is working, the port operations are working at 100%, so hopefully that will continue.